This chapter will focus on the African peoples. Most scientists believe that human life evolved in Africa, the subcontinent protected by the deep Sahara Desert, and then the equatorial jungles prevented Mediterranean peoples from early contact. The people of Africa did not have any form of written communication, so much is left to archaeology and anthropology to decipher its history. Africa is the second largest continent, but much of the land has been inhospitable to sustain large populations. In the heart of Africa, along the equator, are vast dense jungles that get a lot of rainfall, but the soil is not thick enough when cleared to create crops year after year. Instead, the rains wash the topsoil due to erosion and the soil lacks nutrients. Between the jungles and deserts lie grasslands or savannas that make up half of the continent's land area. However, the landfall is seasonal, so at times it is too wet to plant crops, then they wither in the late sun in the season. A lack of rainfall during the traditional rainy season can lead to a famine as witnessed in modern-day Ethiopia and Somalia. The Bantu people were an ethnicity of people that are believed to have first populated the area around Nigeria. Over time, they learned to smelt iron ore and develop tools for agriculture and clear dense jungle growth. As the population grew, they developed their own colonies throughout southern Africa. Because they did not have written communication, an empire did not exist. Instead, the Bantus developed a decentralized form of government. A group of families formed a council, and one was selected as chief or king and would represent the whole group. Bantu men were polygamous and married within different families to make the clan stronger. The largest of these groups were in the Central African Kingdom of the Congo by the 1300s. In the area that is shaded with diagonal red lines, that is an area around present-day Nigeria, this is believed to be the hearth of the Bantu people. They would spread south, east, as well as north. The African people were polytheistic and worshiped gods related to natural forces and fertility as the early Egyptians and Hindus had. Animism is the belief that spirits existed that could either help or harm humans, so the people worshiped these deities with certain rituals. Most African kingdoms developed shamans or witch doctors, which were spiritual priests to administer the rituals, plus offer early types of medicine. The shamans kept much of this information secret, and their power was handed down through family ties. The Bantu also believed in filial piety, worshipping dead ancestors. Much of their religious functions would consist of dancing and the actors wearing masks, signifying the past ancestors of the tribes looking over them. The spread of Islam changed the cultural ties of Africa forever. Egypt had been a Christian area under the Byzantine Empire. However, the Coptic Christians believed Jesus was a divine entity in himself, the Son of God. He was not part of the Holy Trinity. Remember, Arius, an early heretic, was from Egypt. Between 639 and 642, the Arabs conquered Egypt, and by 750, 1 million Arabs moved into the Nile Valley. Many of the early Christians converted so they would not have to pay taxes. Islam quickly spread along the fertile coast of North Africa, today's Morocco. In the year 709, the Germanic kings of Spain died without any heirs. A battle for succession ensued, and one of the contenders asked for military assistance from the Muslim governor of North Africa. General Tariq Ziyad crossed the Mediterranean Sea and defeated the other contender. While there, he conquered the southern city of Toledo, and many of the residents converted to Islam. The following year, the emir, or governor of North Africa, sent 20,000 troops and conquered 80% of the peninsula and named it Al-Andalus, or Andalusia. When the Abbasid dynasty took hold in Baghdad, Spain was the only part of the Ummah that was ruled by a member of the Umayyad dynasty. This was tolerated as long as they were part of the Sunni branch. Arabic culture, the translations of Plato and Aristotle, medical research, Arabic numerals, these were all incorporated into the Arabic area of Andalusia. When the Spanish would clear the peninsula of the Muslims in 1492, these documents spread through much of Europe, and the Renaissance began as the old classical literature was now available to the masses of Europe. While Muhammad did not have a son, he did have a daughter, Fatima. Her children began a distinctive dynasty of their own. Fatima was married to Ali, the Prophet's son-in-law. However, they were the Shiite branch of Islam. They were able to break free of the Abbasid control in the early 900s. However, they tolerated the Sunni majority, which contradicted their claim as direct heirs to Muhammad. The Fatimids would stay in control until 1173, when Muslims from Asia would counter Christian crusaders and extended their reach into Egypt. When Egypt divested itself of Abbasid rule, the Emir of Andalusia decided to create his own Caliphate of Cordoba. Jews and Christians were tolerated and often influenced moderation of strict interpretations of Islam. This would cause divisions amongst conservatives in their rule. Eventually, Christians would start pushing from the north, and the Muslims were forced out of the peninsula by the 1400s. Saharan trading networks via camels started to sprout from North Africa. Parts of Africa had mineral wealth, especially gold. Arab merchants brought their language and religion deep into the first savanna. Rival African tribes warred against each other and sold off their conquests as slaves. That was another lucrative market for Muslims, although they did not hold their slaves for perpetuity or their children as had happened in the Americas. As trade developed, merchants became wealthy, as did their clans. Towns such as Timbuktu started to emerge as inns and markets were needed. Over time, short-lived empires emerged. For 2 centuries, between 1200 and 1400, Mali dominated West Africa astride salt mines for processing meat, gold, and copper. The leadership and merchants adopted Islam, but the majority of the population continued to be animist. These were the general farmers and mine workers. Mansa Musa became renowned when he was the first from Mali to attend the Hajj in Mecca. His entourage consisted of thousands of camels and even elephants traveling over the desert to Cairo and then Arabia. This great display of wealth attracted fame in the Muslim world. Mansa brought back Mediterranean architecture along with Islamic scholarship. Ethiopia is recorded in the Old Testament of the Bible as the land from where the Queen of Sheba came to offer Solomon great riches as he built the first temple. Legend has it that she came back pregnant with Solomon's child, which kings have claimed that they have descended. King Izana, in the early 300s, converted to Monophysite Christianity brought by Egyptian priests. Ethiopia's isolation in a mountainous area allowed it to maintain its culture even after the Egyptians were defeated by the Arabs. This map shows the migrations of Arabs and Indian Muslims to the eastern part of Africa. The Bantu tribes spread to East African areas. Over time, as Islam spread into India and Indonesia, Arab and Indian merchants settled along the coast and formed city-states in Mombasa, Mogadishu, and the island of Zanzibar. These people spoke Swahili, a blend of Arabic and Bantu. Wealthy Indian merchants also settled in these cities. The Indian Ocean is calmer than the Atlantic, so cities started to occupy East Africa, while cities existed inland along trade routes in West Africa.